Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight are Martin Hardy from The Times and The Mirror's Andy Dunn. Welcome to you both, gents. Let's quickly run through the back pages as they reach us. An eclectic time for sport. This is the Metro. I've not said this is the Andy Murray doubles down and Blues ease Enzo fears. The Telegraph front page of Sports Supplement. Murray, I have not said one word to Raducanu. And the Telegraph there also, delay in video release makes Dujardin case inadmissible. Olympics chaos, the football underway in some style. The Express back page, outcast is the headline around Charlotte Dujardin there. No singles for Andy. Coast is clear for White and curtain raiser ends in chaos. That's again the Football Olympics, Argentina, Morocco. Dujardin in the Guardian leads, loses honour over whipping horse 24 times. VAR chaos and crowd trouble on day one at the Paris Olympics. Times sport here, Dujardin funding suspended. Argentina time marred by violence. Star back page, White on cue. Ben White potentially back in the mix for England. Gone to VAR this time, to VAR this time. Doubles or nothing. Looks better than it sounds, that one. Flying the flag and Flintoff favourite for white ball England role. Freddie Flintoff. Some back page. Argentina, as in VAR. Game set and scratch and Enzo row hits Paris. Let's start with the tennis and with the Metro. Andy, coming to you regarding your namesake. Andy doubles down. Is this a sad finale that it's just a doubles for Andy Murray with Dan Evans, or is it inevitable given the back operation?
Oh, totally the right choice, Teddy. Murray himself, I think, would have. He said he pretty much made the final decision today, and he actually said his quote was, "My back's still not perfect." And you can't go into a major tennis tournament, an Olympic singles tennis tournament, when your back is still not perfect. Don't forget the last singles game he played was a very brief one. I think it lasted 5 games at Queen's before he had to retire injured. So there's no way really that he could compete at the level he would want to compete in the singles. And I quite like the idea of him finishing with the doubles, because I love the comments today from Andy Murray talking about the team ethic, what he loves about the Olympic Games, the camaraderie there, the sharing an apartment with the guys. And somehow, I think it's quite appropriate that him and Dan Evans are going to finish this together. He's going to basically do everything he can for the team rather than for himself. I think that gives you an insight into Murray's character. I think it's an absolutely appropriate way to go out. And the interview that you showed just a few moments ago on Sky Sports News with Dan Evans, where he was saying that he was going to do everything he could to make Murray's farewell tournament one in which he medals. I'd love that to happen. I think it's a great way for Murray to go out. I think he spoke brilliantly today about it, throwing himself behind Team GB, doing what's best for Team GB and not what's best for Andy Murray. I think that's great.
Wish all the best for Andy Murray and Dan Evans in that. Of course, not a celebration of Andy Murray, Martin, but front page of the Telegraph sport, a bit of controversy. Murray, I've not said one word to Raducanu. No reconciliation after abrupt end to Wimbledon doubles. Britain defends Mother Judy for her quote-unquote astonishing reaction. What do you make of any potential fallout between the Murrays and the Raducanus?
Look, inside of that, he did go on to say everybody looks out after their best interests. Andy Murray, who's had injuries in such a successful career, will understand that. Why Emma Raducanu decided to pull out. Yes, she didn't. She could have made the decision a little bit earlier. There was problems about when she would have played, and the kind of fixture piling up because of a bit of the rain. I don't see it quite as black and white there. And his comments may have been seen as more conciliatory than that. Everyone is going to look out for their best interests, he said, and that's what they're doing here. He also kind of was aware that we all probably should bite our tongue a little bit when we're on social media. His mum had reacted a little bit quickly and probably said what may have been better staying behind closed doors. It's a really interesting time in Andy's life. He now 37. You just see that comment from somebody whose life will have been dictated to every day since he was very little by tennis, and it's quite a tender comment. He says, I just don't exactly know what the rest of my life is going to look like now. He has mentioned the fact that he'd like to be involved in the Olympics, and you're thinking he could be somebody who could kind of represent GB with great distinction, as he has on the tennis court. I noticed, I was quite intrigued when he said his back's starting to feel a lot better than it did a month ago. And as Andy Dunn will testify, not Andy Murray, we fill columns with sportsmen who want one more bite at it and can be tempted out of retirement. And who knows whether we really have seen the last of him at Wimbledon, and whether Emma Raducanu, who's for par with the doubles, has kind of left a little flame burning inside of him. And he starts training again in 10 months' time. It's certainly that may be slightly fanciful, but at the same time, he then wanted to say, I think I might quite like to be a scratch golfer. And if you're good enough to be a scratch golfer, that would suggest your body may be up for the odd game of tennis. But he's been a superb ambassador for the sport and for GB. And what was he, double Olympic gold medalist in the singles in tennis, but hasn't won the gold yet. So maybe that's the fitting way for him to, we assume, kind of write his final chapter in the sport this last month.
Indeed, it's a formidable and impressive CV, isn't it, Andy? But just wanted to touch with you because your colleague John Cross was on last night. Regular viewers and podcast listeners will know, and he gave it away that you're not necessarily subscribing to the fact that Andy Murray's Britain's greatest ever sportsman. In fact, you're still very much in the Fred Perry camp, apparently, nearly 100 years on.
You know what? It was a long 5 weeks with Crossy in Germany, and we got round to that type of conversation. You can imagine round the dinner table, obviously when Andy Murray was saying farewell to Wimbledon, who's the greatest ever British sportsman. And I did say, obviously, statistically, Fred Perry obviously won more Grand Slams than Andy Murray. So I was being slightly argumentative for the sake of it. But listen, whatever you say about Andy Murray, whether he's the greatest sportsman or whatever, he has been an absolutely fantastic ambassador for sport, and for his own sport and for sport in general throughout his brilliant career. And he's in the top 10. Let's leave it at that, Teddy.
Indeed. Well, let's leave it at that. It's nice to hear him talking with acceptance on his decision as well about retirement. Seemed very calm and comfortable with the decision. Not calm was the opening football match at the Paris Olympics. Martin, let's go to the Guardian Sports supplement here. VAR chaos and crowd trouble on first day. It ended up with a surprise, I guess, win for Morocco over Argentina. But run us through some of the chief instances here, Martin. I suppose football sometimes can get sidelined at the Olympics, but it certainly made a splash in the wrong way, perhaps.
Well, even at the start, you've got the ongoing problem between France and Argentina, and the France fans booing the Argentinian national anthem in retaliation for the song that's caused such controversy. And that carries right the way through to injury time, when you see this incredible goal. To those that haven't seen it yet, it's a shot blocked, a shot dropped by the goalkeeper, a brilliant save, a header off the bar, and then a close range header. And you think Argentina have won this game deep in injury time. That sparks all kinds of chaos with fireworks and people coming on the pitch. And at that point, the players are taken off. Now, I've got my head round VAR, but I was never a great fan of it to start with. And one of the reasons that I would have put forward was you can't officiate games after they've finished. You can't officiate games after the fans left the stadium. On this occasion, the fans have left the stadium, and 2 hours from a crowd of 35,000 to more or less zero, the game is restarted. And at that point, it's judged that there is an offside in the Argentinian goal. And another thing I can't quite get my head around with VAR having been brought in is that an offside, whether it's a centimetre or a metre, is still offside. So they have found an offside. It's just that should have been done a lot earlier. The game shouldn't have been restarted 2 hours later. And we are getting to a farcical situation where fans have left the stadium before the game is even finished. They don't even know the score. So much controversy on the opening day of the football here. And it will be interesting to see what happens next.
Absolutely will be, won't it? We'll keep you across that developing story in reaction to that as well, and don't want to see any more scenes like that in the crowd. Talking about scenes we don't want to see, let's talk Charlotte Dujardin, and the back page of the Express, Andy, has outcast Dujardin career in ruins as whip video sickens backers. This by Mike Walters in Paris. Shamed Olympian Charlotte Dujardin's dressage career is in tatters after she was stripped of funding and dumped as ambassador by a horse welfare charity. How difficult is it for her to find a way back now, Andy?
Well, you would have thought that it might be almost impossible. Listen, the equestrian, the sport of equestrian, is quite a close-knit community, and Charlotte Dujardin clearly has many friends in that community. It's a very tight-knit community, and I suspect that they will rally round it to a certain extent. They certainly wouldn't condone what they've seen, but they will say it's out of character. They will say it's not the Charlotte Dujardin that they recognise and that they've worked alongside and competed alongside. But the fact of the matter is that when Charlotte Dujardin refers to it as an error of judgment, it was a lot more than that. I mean, it was clearly something. And you know what, Teddy? It brings a broader issue into this whole thing about the actual treatment of horses for this particular discipline and for equestrian in general. And that's what people should, because clearly it wasn't, she claims it's an error of judgment, but clearly it was a premeditated technique, it looks like, in the training of this particular horse in that moment. So that gives it a whole broader aspect, when the sport needs to have a look at itself. I actually genuinely think, not that we talk about dressage in a broader sense, other than every 4 years, most people in the sports media, it does bring the whole actual discipline into question, because it has, if you do some research, had its issues before. So I think that's the point. It's a very interesting story, which you referenced earlier about, I think it's Tom Morgan in the Daily Telegraph has done the story about the timing of the whistleblower, and saying it could be inadmissible because it's so long after the scenes that we've seen. Now, I get that, and I understand there's intrigue around that, but the bottom line is it doesn't matter when it is. What you see is what you see. It's absolutely, abhorrent, the whipping of the horse, and she will find it, yes, definitely to get back into mainstream, almost impossible. Within her own community, I think she'll be forgiven.
Well, Times and The Guardian both report, we show the Guardian back page again, damehood denied. Dujardin loses honour over whipping horse 24 times. Sean Ingle reporting that. Matt Lawton with a similar story in the Times. Martin, what's your assessment of it? Will it be concentrated on Dujardin, or will the horse welfare campaigners that we've had on Sky Sports News, etc., will this be fuel to the fire around the whole sport of equestrianism and questioning whether there's a need for it, in a sense, the potential ramifications for horses?
Well, it's such a huge story, Teddy, which you've touched upon and which Andy has touched upon as well. The first thing is, having spent time around stables, not probably to the level that Andy does, who's more to elite horses, the level of dedication and devotion between a horse owner and the horse is phenomenal. It's something that goes way beyond a hobby. They are there every day, mucking them out, looking after them through all kinds of ailments. And speaking to some people today, they couldn't even watch the video of what happened. And I have watched it. And if you haven't watched it, the horse is terrified, the horse is hurt, the whips don't stop. Dujardin takes I wouldn't quite say a run-up, but she takes a swing with her left arm. It's a horrible incident to watch. If there is remorse now, and if that's the first time she's done it, there was no remorse that day. And one of the elements of this, if you watch the video, is somebody in the background, either videoing or beside them, is actually laughing when the horse is hit. So from every perspective, it's wrong. Andy touches upon equestrianism, and horses don't naturally walk this way. So there will be questions about the sport in general in a wider perspective. From her perspective, the story that I think Matt's done in our paper is that it could cost her a damehood. Good. Could cost her a CBE. Good. She's been suspended by the FAI for 6 months as they undergo an investigation. Her place as one of the GB elite Olympians is completely in tatters now, and that video is damning evidence of why that is now the case.
Indeed, very difficult watch, and we hope it is a catalyst, as you say, for improved horse welfare. There is a positive outcome. Martin, Andy, thank you very much for now. We will take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Star, White on cue. Could Ben White return to the England fold under the new manager? Welcome back to you. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to Martin Hardy from The Times and The Mirror's Andy Dunn. Gents, let's go to the back page of The Star then. Andy, White on cue. Ben rethink after Gareth goes. Does this just illustrate, with Ben White potentially coming back to the England fold, how bad the rift was between him and Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland?
Yeah, well, Jeremy Cross has written that story. He wrote the original story out in Qatar when Ben White left the camp, that there'd been a rift between the player and the coaches, Gareth and Steve Holland. And yes, so it stands to reason almost that now they're gone, that he might consider return. But the bottom line is, Teddy, what England manager would now go cap in hand to a player who has essentially decided he doesn't want to play for England? I don't want to get all overly tub thumping about this, but surely you don't pick and choose when you represent your country, no matter how much you either get on or don't get on with the coaching staff. And I would also say that Ben White is a complete outlier in this, in the sense that he's the only one I know who has had anything, or if it's true, has not got on with the coaching staff. So I find that odd. And again, with respect to Ben White, he was brilliant last season for Arsenal. I don't think England really need to go cap in hand to Ben White and say, listen, will you change your mind? So I find the idea of him coming back, I find the story, obviously, that he might want to come back, absolutely spot on. The idea of actually allowing him to come back or going to Ben White and saying, listen, will you play for England? Are you now available again for England? I find that a little bit unlikely, even from a PR point of view. I think a new England manager might not look great PR-wise in the eyes of the fans, if he says, right, one of the first things I'm going to do is try and persuade Ben White to come back and play for England. So no, I don't see him back in an England shirt. Does he want to be back in one? Quite possibly so, and I certainly believe the story, but I see him in an England shirt again? Not for a long time.
But if Ben White prevents a convincing case to the new manager, Martin is a player who can play at right back, can play at centre-half. He's 26 years of age, so good for a couple of tournaments. Surely the new manager might take a look at him. What do you think?
I completely get Andy's sentiment on the fact that he kind of talked his way out of an England squad and then said he didn't want to come back. Kind of my argument to bring him back as the counter side to that would be, if you go and watch England against Spain in the Euro final, England equalise, and from the 75th minute onwards, don't get the ball into the Spanish half and have possession there. The ball goes to Mark Gay, who boots it out for a throw-in which Spain used to make their second goal. John Stones, who are one of our better defenders on the ball, boots it up about 60 yards and gives away possession. And the rest of the time was with Jordan Pickford, who went long far on many occasions and kicked the ball out for a Spanish goal kick just when England were on top at about the 75th minute. I don't think England have that many players that are good on the ball at the back. He will be playing top-level football in the Champions League next season, which some of these competitor next season for England places won't be. Obviously, it depends who comes in as manager. It will need conversations, bridges to be built. But I would think if you're the England manager coming in and you think, I can get my hands on a quality centre-half who's been coached by Mikel Arteta, who can also play at right back and could probably play as part of a three, then I will assess that situation and probably sit down with Ben and have a cup of tea and see if we can resolve this issue.
Yeah, interesting one to watch, isn't it? Very interesting to see that first England squad as well without Gareth Southgate in September. Let's talk Chelsea. Back page of the Metro, Andy. Blues ease Enzo fears. Maresca is confident Chelsea can move on from Fernandez racism row. Chris Davey reporting. Video widely reported to be xenophobic and racist. Andy, do you share the confidence of Maresca and to a lesser extent Reece James that things can be smoothed over at Chelsea?
I don't share it one iota. I don't see where they possibly get this confidence from. I mean, for the start off, Chelsea have announced already at the time when the video emerged that they were going to conduct an internal investigation. They also said that it was an opportunity for education. So let's find out what happens with this internal investigation. I assume they haven't spoken to Enzo Fernandez in person. They may well have spoken to him over the phone, and Maresca, I think, has spoken to him. But this has to run its course. There has to be a proper investigation into this by the club. They have to be seen to be doing this. These are extremely serious circumstances, extremely serious allegations with all sorts of possible ramifications. You just can't sit there today the new manager and say, oh, yeah, well, yeah, it's okay, it'll all be fine. You know, they've clarified the situation, both the player and the club. No, they haven't clarified it. It hasn't been clarified one bit. We haven't heard from Enzo Fernandez why this video emerged and why he's on it doing what he's doing. We haven't heard from Chelsea what the result of their investigation is. So I just find it, listen, you don't expect him to sit down there and sort of be extremely, extremely critical of anyone in particular. But what he should be saying is, listen, I want to get to the bottom of it. This is serious. We need to get to the bottom of it, and we'll get to the bottom of it when we meet up with Enzo Fernandez and we sort it once and for all. No, I think this story is by no means, not even close to being eased, and the ramifications I think we will see for many, many weeks to come, if not longer than that.
OK, well, let's switch to cricket before the end. We're going to get to Martin in just a second, but I'll come to you, Andy. I know you like your cricket. Flintoff, the favourite for white ball England role in the iSport by Chris Stocks. This if Matthew Mott, as they say, is expected, leaves the role, with Owen Morgan enjoying life with his family and working on Sky Sports. Well, why wouldn't he?
Yes.
What do you make of that, though? Is that the perfect scenario, or is it possibly setting a hero up for a failure? What do you make of that?
It would be a gamble. I mean, you're quite right. Owen Morgan would have been the obvious choice. He said he wants to carry on doing what he's doing, spend some more time with the family. Flintoff has been absolutely fast-tracked. He's a big pal of Rob Key. Obviously, he's been fast-tracked. He's got the gig with the Northern Superchargers in the 100. It'll be interesting to see what he does with those. Obviously, he's big pals with a lot of the England players, widely respected. Is he qualified to do it? I would suggest he's probably not qualified to do it. Strictly speaking, in terms of coaching experience, is he qualified to do it in that he's an inspiration, a legend, absolutely hugely respected, and plays the sort of cricket, more importantly, that England like to play at the moment. So I think it'd be a great appointment. A gamble, yes, but it'd be fascinating to see.
OK.
And he might get his lad to play as well. He's only 16, of course. His lad Rocky got 100 for the under-19. So going down the line, he might get him.
Flintoff double. Brilliant stuff. Andy Martin, I was going to hope to speak to you about the Olympic flag bearers, but we'll have to save that conversation. Great moment for Helen Glover and Mr. Daley as well. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you, gents, Andy and Martin. Appreciate your time on Back Pages tonight. Thank you for watching at home. If you missed any of the show, another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. Also available as a podcast, Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. On Thursday, join us again. Jonathan Liu and Riyadh Al Samurai are the guests.